Today is Monday, September 27, 2021. Coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. It took a federal jury less than 2 days to convict R. Kelly on all 9 counts, including racketeering. We'll talk to a co-founder of the Mute R. Kelly movement to get her thoughts on today's guilty verdict. When an independent intervention into the use of horses and whips on Haitian migrants is underway, U.S. Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas says he's proud of those who serve with the United States Customs and Border Protection Agency. Well, what's also next? Some 12,000 Haitian migrants have been let into the United States. We'll talk with Texas Congressman Al Green about this issue. He endured a violent attack by a Michigan State Police K-9 dog. Now Robert Gilliam III is suing. He'll join us with his attorney. There's also a push to get a wrongfully convicted North Carolina man a pardon from the Democratic governor. Why is Roy Cooper resisting? Alabama wants to use federal COVID dollars to build more prisons. Sounds like dumbass Alabama. And Kelly Price has resurfaced to explain why she was, quote, missing. It's time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the miss, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling.
– 12,000 Haitian migrants are in the United States. U.S. Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas insists that the mounted border agents under investigation for their treatment of Haitian migrants will have a fair hearing. This is also while you have Texas Governor Greg Abbott, who says that Texas will hire those agents if they lose their job. An independent investigation into these images of the agents swinging their horse reins as they sought to deter migrants crossing the Rio Grande. In an interview on NBC's Meet the Press, Mayorkas said he's proud of the men and women who served with the United States Customs and Border Protection.
There is some Democrats in this town that thinks CPB is a rogue agency. What would you say to that? I'm sure you've heard that privately.
Oh, I couldn't disagree more vehemently. I'm intensely and immensely proud of the men and women of the U.S. Customs and Border Protection. In fact, in Del Rio, Texas, I saw them act heroically. You know, what those images suggest does not reflect who CBP is, who we are as a department, nor who we are as a country.
Now, the Border Patrol Union said that they, using horseback, that is a training that they get. Are they right?
Oh, the Horse Patrol serves an incredibly important function. Horses can traverse terrain that might not otherwise be covered. In fact, horses are often used to not only assess a situation, but to actually help people in distress. CBP personnel have saved many lives on horseback.
So those images you think are something that, do you think those images misconstrued their actions? Do you think that it's going to turn out their actions were actually on the up and up?
The facts are going to be adduced in the investigation. The investigation will determine the facts. It's an independent one run by the Office for Professional Responsibility. In fact, I directed that the leadership of that office direct the investigation to ensure it's both integrity and quality.
Now, the White House has condemned the treatment of Haitian migrants at the border. Out of the nearly 15,000 Haitians who arrived in Del Rio, Texas, 12,400 remain in the United States. 8,000 were sent back to Mexico. 2,000 were deported to Haiti. Joining us now is Texas Congressman Al Green. Congressman, glad to have you back on Roland Martin Unfiltered. You have Texas Governor Greg Abbott, who says if these officers with the Border Patrol lose their job, the state of Texas is gonna hire them. I mean, what the hell is Abbott doing?
Well, I think he's running for governor. He understands that he may have a challenger, and it may be Beto O'Rourke. So he's appealing to his base. He's trying as best as he can to set a tone and a tenor that will appeal to them so that he will have the support that he needs to win again. But this is bigger than Governor Abbott. This is about humanity, and it's about the humane treatment for people of Haitian origin. We have found since 1966, when the Cuban Adjustment Act was enacted, that Haitians were treated unfairly. If you were Cuban and you came to this country and you got 1 foot on dry land and the other foot was still in water, you were literally on a pathway to citizenship after a year. That was not accorded to Haitians. The Haitians have never had that type of opportunity. You can be here for years. Once they catch you, they send you back to Haiti. This has been the way we have treated Haitians for too long. We should let them stay now because we have accorded temporary protected status to Haitians who were here at a certain time before this last earthquake. And we're saying that it's not safe for them to go back. Well, if it's not safe for some of them to go back, how can we now decide that we're going to send others back? All of them should be allowed to stay if they make it to this country. I say this because we got to make up for our past transgressions as it relates to Haiti. These people, our friends, our neighbors, have not been treated fairly.
But so this policy, is this a policy established by Congress, or is this simply administration to administration, meaning it can be changed?
Yes, it can be changed, and it is being changed. If you've noticed, you said that there were 12,000 Haitians that were staying. They've started changing already. When we were in Homeland Security hearing with the Secretary, I asked him to give some consideration to what's happening to the Haitians. And I've seen the change taking place. I'm not going to attribute all of that to my one question, but I also have a resolution, HRES 670, that is there to sanction the behavior that we saw with reference to the Haitians at the border.
Congressman, hold tight 1 second. Again, I want to be very clear.
Yes.
The policy of the United States, the one that is separate for Cubans from Haitians, is that actually law, or is that simply practice?
No, that was a policy of the United States, the wet foot, dry foot policy. Literally, that's what it was called.
So right now, so what you're saying is...
No. President Obama ended it. He ended it.
He ended that.
Yes, President Obama did. He ended it because it wasn't fair to the Haitians. They didn't get the same treatment. By the way, neither did the people from Mexico or any places south of the border. That was especially for Cubans. And it is no longer the case. But I use that as a historical marker so that you can see how Haitians have been treated over the years. They've not been treated fairly. Now, moving to the present time, it is Section 42 that we now find ourselves dealing with. It deals with the health of persons. If their persons are unhealthy, we don't have to let them in the United States. Well, I don't think that should apply to the Haitians. I think that the temporary protected status law that we have in place right now for Haitians ought to trump, the Section 42 because the Haitians can be treated here if they're sick. Sending them to Haiti, knowing that they're ill, makes no sense. Haiti is right now a country that is in turmoil. There are gangs that are roaming and killing people. You have had the president assassinated. They just had an earthquake. It does not make good sense to send them back. So I'm advocating for them to stay in this country.
The 12,000 or so, how are they being treated? Are they providing any resources? Are they being treated the same way the Afghan refugees? We're talking about 12,000 Haitians. The United States provided resources, if I'm correct, for the Afghan refugees. And so what is happening there?
Millions for the Afghan refugees. Ostensibly, the Haitians should be receiving treatment that we give all persons who are seeking asylum. To get asylum, you've got to demonstrate that you'll be persecuted if you're sent back to your country. And that's based on your race, your religion, your political persuasion. If you're going to be persecuted, you should be able to get asylum. So they're being processed right now. And being processed means that they'll be given the opportunity to explain their request for asylum. They should be able to go before a judge at some point. There's a backlog, so it may take a while before they'll have that actual opportunity to appear. And in the interim, they're allowed to stay in the country. They're allowed to have the opportunity to wait here until that asylum takes place. Now, as you know, many persons were waiting in Mexico under the Trump administration, but this administration has allowed persons to wait in the country.
We've got some, I've been dealing with some stuck-on stupid people who are anti-immigrant, black folks who are anti-immigration, even when it comes to black folks. And I keep making the point that if you actually look at the birth rates in this country that are actually decreasing among whites, but also African Americans, immigration is a natural part of any country's future. And so what do you say to these black folks out here who say, the hell with the Haitians, we don't give a damn about them? These black folks who say immigration is killing the black community. What would you say to them, those who watch it? Because they love bitching and moaning about our show, but they always got something to say about our show as well. What would you say to them right now?
Well, I'd say to them, if you think Social Security is a good program and that it benefits people, then you probably want to have some working immigrants, because the immigrants that are coming, generally speaking, are young people. And Social Security is funded by the young for the older people. This is a good program, Social Security. I want to see it continue. So we need young people working to make sure that the program is properly funded.
So just hold it right there. So
yes.
For the black person right now who's 40 or 50 years old, whining and complaining about this, you need people in the future working to fund the person today who's going to be 65 or 70 in 25, 30 years.
That is correct. Social Security is dependent upon people working. We don't have a coffer with all of the Social Security funds in it. I wish we did. You might remember there was a president who campaigned, a person ran for president, campaigned and said he was going to put that money in a lockbox. Well, it goes into the general fund and we use it for various purposes that are good. I'm not complaining about how it's being used, other than we should be prepared to make sure we take care of future generations. So yes, that's one thing that I would tell them. But then I would also say to them, as much as we say we will take jobs, there are some jobs that because we are educated and because we have opportunities that we see in this country that we'd like to have, that we don't take these jobs immediately. There are not a lot of people who want to work in slaughterhouses. There are not a lot of people who want to work out in the sun picking fruit. These kinds of jobs usually are taken by people who are new to the country. And because they're new to the country, they get wages that are not acceptable to me. Lots of those wages are not. Some are, but they get these wages. So they're low-paying wages. And I don't want people to make anything less than a living wage. But a living wage for some people is something that they'd like to get beyond. So you have entry-level wages, and immigrants take a lot of these jobs. A lot of the chicken that we eat is on the table because of some immigrants who worked long and hard to help us get there.
All right then, Congressman Al Green, I heard that buzzer. You got to go vote.
I do, but I got to ask you one more thing. May I share one thought with you?
Yes, sir.
This is important. Mr. McConnell told us something just the other day, Roland, that we should listen to. He said that we have the House, the Senate, and the presidency. I've heard you talk about this. And if we have the House, the Senate, and the presidency, he said, I'm not going to help you. If you want to do something, do it. You have control. But let me tell you what he said without saying it. He also said this: when I'm in charge, I'm not going to expect you to help me. I'm going to go ahead and take care of business. He's saying, just like I took care of those judges, I changed the rules for the Supreme Court, I'm going to take care of business. So he's saying, you're in charge now. So if you want to get your comprehensive immigration reform passed, go ahead. If you want to make sure that you've got a CR passed, continuing resolution, if you want to pass these bills for trillions of dollars, you should do that. Because when I'm in charge, this is McConnell speaking, I'm going to take care of business. That we are not going to allow you to tell us what to do when we're in charge. So I think we have to listen to this man, and we need to do away with the filibuster. That is the thing that is blocking all of what we want to accomplish. Get rid of the filibuster, and we can take care of business. Thank you for allowing me to say that.
All right, Congressman Al Green, I certainly appreciate it. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
want to go to our panel. Makongo Dabinga, professorial lecturer, School of International Service at American University. Dr. Julian Malveaux, College of Ethnic Studies, California State University, LA. Lauren Victoria Burke, writer with the NNPA and the GRIO. Folks, so you heard what he had to say there, Congressman Al Green. And the thing that is a trip, Julian, I listen to these whiny people. Oh, black people should not be helping with this immigration issue. And I'm sitting there going, again, clearly these are people who know nothing about the history of the country and how you actually have a future. I mean, that's what's so crazy. You got these white folks who are yelling and saying, oh, they're destroying our country. They can't offer that proof. They're like people, oh, they're taking our jobs. Okay, you're lying. First of all, the jobs we're talking about, I don't know a lot of black folks who are trying to out there be picking lettuce and oranges and doing a lot of that type of work like the migrant workers in California, Texas, and Florida.
You know, Roland, what's interesting about what the congressman said, most importantly, was the notion that younger people pay into older people's Social Security. In other words, what we know is that we have people whose work is supporting our nation. So it's crazy for folks, but you know, white people crazy. Let me just say that, white people crazy. We know white people crazy. All together now, white people crazy. Oh, Makongo, come on with me. White people crazy. So they don't really get it. They don't get the ways that the intersectionality of our existence works. I want to know, too, what happened to the Haitians who were released. But more importantly, I want to know why our public policy has been such a debacle around this. Why you have white men on horses with whips, dealing with people. So these are things we want to know. But the Congressman Green is right on it. He and many others have raised the most important questions. And what we need to do, all of us, is to support them and to start calling their offices. And as he said, the filibuster is death. So we've been talking about this, Roland, as you know, for a long time. But it's time now to say, let's get rid of the filibuster.
Makongo, again, it is very interesting when you listen, and I've talked about this for years, dating back to when I had midday and the morning drive show on WVON in Chicago, going back to 2006, 2007. You have, there's a percentage of black folks who are violently anti-immigration because they have fallen for this notion of this is horrible, it's destroying African Americans. It's not. And what you're dealing with here is again a situation of not understanding exactly how immigration works, how there's an actual immigration policy in this country.
No, yeah, you're absolutely right. And I would add another category. We talked about the different types of jobs they may take. I'm going to add another category. They're going to be going into some of these professions as it relates to nursing and the like, because we have to understand that these are people who are coming from places like Brazil and Mexico, and many of them already had a certain level of skills and education. And so you see that we have people who are nurses and other professions who don't want to get vaccinated, who are leaving those professions. I can guarantee you that many of these folks who are coming in, if they have the skill sets, they're going to get vaccinated and go into those professions as well. And then people are going to be up in the hospital and be like, why we got all these Haitian nurses? Why we got all of these Haitian teachers? And so on and so forth, right? And so you're absolutely right, because once they get into this country, as Representative Green said, they actually serve the greater community. We also know that people who are here as immigrants also pay their fair share of taxes, more than many other American-born people here as well. So they ultimately contribute to the economy. And quite honestly, if we're talking about building our society and building our community, these are people, if they stay and become citizens, and if they continue to be treated properly, by the Biden government, if they finally get their head right and start treating them like actual human beings, these are people that can also be part of the voting populace here in this country that can actually vote for some of the change that we need in terms of leadership. And so I think that people within the African American community got it all wrong, who feel like these people are part of the problem. They can be part of the solution, and they need to be embraced as part of our diaspora community as opposed to pushed to the side. Because I can guarantee you that people from Afghanistan who are here, who've been here forever, aren't pushing these refugees from Afghanistan away. They're bringing them into their community to help them grow their community, and we need to be doing the same thing.
You know, the thing that is just interesting to me, Lauren, again, is to listen to just the nonsensical people. And let's just be real clear. The folks who are running their mouths the most despise Biden, who frankly were trying to help Donald Trump. See, and I love it when they always like, well, no, this all about we were trying to get this. No, there were two options. It was either Donald Trump gets reelected or you elect Joe Biden. Now, those of us who support Joe Biden can still kick his ass on when he's wrong. The difference here is Donald Trump didn't give a damn about nothing involving black people. Nothing. He was playing games, hanging out with Kanye and Lil Wayne. That's all he wanted to do. And Candace Owens. So at some point, we need to call it what it is. A lot of these folks want to be contrarian, got no alternative, no plan, no agenda, can't organize themselves out of a phone booth, but now they want to yell and complain and say, we shouldn't be taking up for Haitians for how they were being treated. Bullshit. Yes, we can. If you're a human being and you are seeing inhumane things happen, you don't stay quiet because you don't like immigration.
Yeah, I mean, obviously what happened at the border, what we saw in that video and what we saw in those photos was not right, no matter who it was. For African Americans, it's always different. We know that the treatment of people who are our skin color is always worse, and we're not going to just sit by and not say anything, particularly given the specific history of Haiti. So, I mean, there's a lot of things going on here. The idea that people complain about immigrants, I think that the points were well taken from the congressman from Texas, Al Green, with regard to the jobs that African Americans are likely to be competing for when it comes to immigration. I do think a lot of that complaining comes out of a place of insecurity and, frankly, the knowledge that black people and the black agenda is always at the bottom of the totem pole in the United States. And so anytime we see anybody else getting attention, we take notice. And I can tell you that after my little experience with breast cancer earlier this year, if you ever have a medical situation where you're at the hospital frequently, you'll notice that so many of the personnel at the hospital are from other countries, namely Nigeria, Kenya, Mexico, just other places, you know. And so I don't even know, you know, to listen to Donald Trump and his people talk disparagingly about immigrants was really strange, because I think he has absolutely no idea about who runs this country, what runs this country. You know, every time I see people, particularly in Arlington and in Washington, D.C., who are from other countries, they're here busting their ass. And I mean really seriously busting their ass. They're doing the work that our ancestors had to do back in the 40s and 50s, the cleaning, the construction, those things. Those are real. This is not sitting around the office pushing paper. You know, this is real back-breaking work. I'm not sure how anyone could not notice that just from walking around on the street in any big city in this country. So, you know, what we're talking about really when we talk about immigration and we talk about Donald Trump is really just racism and the fact that he's very, you know, insecure and unnerved by the idea that this country is getting blacker and browner. So that's what that's really about.
And for all of you people who just keep running your damn mouth, when we talk about the census, 95% of the growth in Texas were people who were non-white. That includes immigrants. When we talk about what's happening around this country, again, numbers don't lie. And also, this is the last one. I'm sick of all y'all running y'all mouths talking about Biden and Gitmo. Go to my computer, please. I need y'all to understand. Something here. This is what it says. A little-known immigrant holding facility on the base, Gitmo, has a capacity of 120 people. The records say, and it will have an estimated daily population of 20 people. It's a holding facility, y'all. So please, shut the hell up with all of the nonsense. I mean, if I'm sick of these YouTube, TikTok, Twitter doctors when it comes to COVID, I'm damn sure sick of these Twitter, YouTube, wannabe legal experts on immigration who don't know a damn thing what the hell they're talking about, but they love to simply just run their mouths left and right. So,
if I could jump in here for one quick second.
Real quick.
First of all, I want to commend Lauren on her recovery and thank her for her advocacy. Secondly, there's an organization called Touch, Touch, BB, Black Cancer Association. Run by a friend of mine, Ricky Fairley, and I want folks to check it out. She's done amazing work. The problem is that Black women experience breast cancer very differently than other women do. We get it sooner, we die quicker, and she has found some money from pharma to ensure that more of us are in breast cancer trials. Just wanted to give that shout out. And Lauren, I'm so glad that you're still with us.
All right then, folks.
No doubt.
Thanks, Doc.
All right, go ahead. Say it, Lauren, you were talking. Say it again.
I was just saying thank you. Thank you, Doc.
All right, folks. Let's go to our second top story. That is R. Kelly found guilty on all counts in federal New York trial. He was found guilty on 1 count of racketeering and 8 counts of sex trafficking. Of course, jurors began deliberations on Friday, quickly reached a verdict after a weekend hiatus. Kelly will find out if he will spend decades in prison when he is sentenced on May 4th. The singer still has charges pending in Illinois as well as Minnesota, and of course, there's still an investigation happening in the state of Georgia. Man. Folks, let's now talk with one of the co-founders of the Mute R. Kelly movement. She joins us now from Atlanta. Rhonda K., glad to have you on the show. Let's get right to it. This is, here's what I found to be very interesting. R. Kelly could have left the country. He was found not guilty in the 2008 trial. Heat was being applied to him, chose to stay, and in talking with folks out of Chicago, in his camp's mind thinking, oh, we're going to beat this thing again. But what you saw this time, you saw the feds use a different tactic. In the first trial, it really hinged on the testimony of one young lady who was in the video. That jury did not say that there was not him on the videotape. What that jury said was they could not ascertain the age of the young girl in the video. This time, you had woman after woman after woman after woman after woman, and men testifying against him. And the big difference, I think, in this trial, you had people who worked for R. Kelly who also testified against him.
That's absolutely correct. And that was the strategy of our movement from the very beginning. This was a financial boycott because we understood that when it's a powerful, rich, famous, talented man against unknown women, that power dynamic can just be too hard to overcome. But when you're talking about the people around him who are enabling the behavior, who are hiding the secrets, who have the receipts, when you make it so they no longer have a financial incentive to do that, all the chips are going to fall and all the truth is going to come out. And it's going to make it harder to deny what we already know to be true. And so we use that strategy as a way to try to build awareness, but also to kind of pull down that wall of silence that had been insulating him for so long, because that wall was made of money. That wall was made of concert fees. That wall was made of radio spins. That wall was made of streaming. And that is what had kept him from justice for so long. But you take away somebody's financial incentive to protect someone they know to be a serial child molester, and the truth comes out. The feds come knocking on your door and you're not getting a paycheck from this person and you're looking at charges, you're more likely to go ahead and spill the beans. And so that's what we've seen happen. And that's what's worked.
And let's be clear, everything that you described, that's actually what it took to get to this point.
That is actually what it took. So it has never been about women coming forward. Women have been coming forward for decades. It's never been about us not knowing. We all saw the tape way back in the day. It's never been a secret that nobody knew about. I haven't met anybody in Chicago who's around my age who doesn't have an R. Kelly story. This isn't that we did not know what was true. It's that we did not have the tools in our arsenal to prove it. And he just had all the power and all the money. You know, he was able to pay this family to go away during the trial and pay the family off so that they don't testify. You know, he was able to just keep paying civil suits, you know, to keep this out of a courtroom. So it's never been about truth. It's just been about getting to the people who are holding the receipts and making it so that they had to come forward.
It was a very strange defense, if you will, probably because they had none.
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, when all the receipts are there, when all the witnesses are there, when this has been a big open secret for decades, it's really hard to craft a defense that's going to be convincible. You know, so this was just lawyers billing hours and cashing checks because they knew that this was in no way going to be winnable. And they tried intimidating witnesses and doing some of their old tricks that didn't work. I mean, you saw so many of his lawyers, I think, at a certain point realizing this is fruitless and quitting. So he keep having to change lawyers and stuff. But there was nothing here that they could really fall back on other than just hoping that the jury might still have a soft spot for R. Kelly and let him off like they did the first time.
What do you make? I mean, I had people who were tweeting me, emailing me, you're wrong, read the transcripts. These folks are lying. I mean, this, you know, he went by the Pied Piper, but this hold that he has on some black folks, I mean, they were absolutely bonkers. Hitting me up, literally saying our coverage was shameful and wrong, and read the transcripts, at one point, the attorney for one woman walked out of the courtroom in disgust. They were just throwing all kind of stuff out.
Well, if you think you've gotten those emails, then you should look in my inbox. But I think that, you know, we are so hardwired as a community to want to protect Black men against everything. And when we see what looks like a concerted effort to, quote unquote, bring a Black man down, we will throw logic out the window. We will do every level of mental gymnastics. We will bend ourselves into a pretzel to figure out how to continue to defend these people, even as we see the evidence of their crimes, not against white America, not against the greater society, but against us, against our children, against our own very bodies. We will still try to figure out ways to make it so that it's not their fault and they're not guilty. And, you know, so that's a real hurdle that as a community, we've got to figure out how to get over, because we need to be uplifting those that support and uplift us. And we need to be checking folks immediately who do not. We took an illiterate, uneducated man from the south side of Chicago and made him the biggest superstar in the world. And all that time, he was abusing our daughters. He was abusing our sons. He was beating on our children. He was breaking up our families all the time that we were supporting him. And so we've got to learn some discernment here when it comes to who it is that we need to be supporting. And men like this are not those people. You know, we've got to stop all of the hoops and jumping through, you know, rings of fire to figure out how to make a child molester, a pedophile, and a rapist a hero. He is not, and he doesn't deserve the loyalty that we've shown him, because he's never been that loyal to us.
One of the things so obviously he gets sentenced on May 4th. Not sure if a fine is going to be involved. I would assume you may have civil cases filed as well. So if that's the case, what about the folks who say, don't play his music anywhere? So let's just say if there's a fine, if there are civil judgments, well then how do those get paid?
That is none of my business.
No. So what I'm asking is, so for the victims, so for the victims,
Right.
then will that call a prohibition on any of his music continue?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Because that is a cultural community decision that we need to take against any support or normalization of this person, any justification of why, he should be played at our weddings, So when we're talking about his money, he's going to have to figure that out. He's going to have to sell properties and Grammys and collectibles and, I don't know, tap dance on the corner with a guitar case. That's his business. That's his business. That's his lawyer's business, how he figures out how to pay civil cases. For those victims, absolutely, of course, we want them to be compensated because what they have gone through merits compensation. Therapy costs money. The ability to move on with your life is not as easy as just saying I'm over it and keep it moving. So absolutely, they are deserving. But we don't, as a community, ever want to backslide to thinking that we want our children singing "I Believe I Can Fly." We don't want our children singing the words of a sexual predator. We don't need at our weddings to be playing his music when we know all along that a lot of that music was written about sex with children and helped fund rape of children. So we don't want to culturally make any excuses for why we want to keep playing him. He's got to figure out how to raise that money, and that is none of our business how he does it.
I'm going to bring in the panel here. What jumps out here, Lauren, were the prosecutors using the RICO statute to go after R. Kelly. That also was a difference because obviously it was a state trial that took place in Chicago in 2008. This year, you're dealing with a much different trial here, but also how the prosecutors went after R. Kelly.
Yeah, there was certainly a great deal of energy, the RICO statute. I thought I saw racketeering. I had not paid very specific attention to this case because I had a few other things going on, but I have no doubt that when you see that type of energy used against somebody, that certainly there's something there.
They use that because they position R. Kelly as being the head of a criminal enterprise, and so they said so he was orchestrating this criminal enterprise in terms of taking these young girls across federal lines, of course, in terms of and using employees to do his bidding as well. So that's why they use the RICO statute.
Yeah, the using of the employees, obviously this being the Southern District of New York, I would assume it's in Brooklyn. I eagerly await to see the same effort and energy go into Donald Trump, as he has been accused, I think, by 23 women of sexual harassment, sexual assault, and rape. So hopefully the government will use the same energy in a few more cases. We saw in the Weinstein case as well, certainly the difference, I think, in R. Kelly's case. And in this case, R. Kelly, of course, we're dealing with minors in so many of these instances. But it would be interesting to see, hopefully that same jurisdiction will go after Donald Trump in the same I think, vigorous way that they just went after R. Kelly.
Congo, what do you make of, again, this jury decision? Very complex charges, did not take them very long to reach guilty on all counts.
Well, first of all, I want to commend Ms. Odelay and the entire team for everything they've done tirelessly to support our people and our children. It's beautiful to be able to say victims now as opposed to alleged victims, because really at the end of the day, it's a happy day, but it's also sad that it took this long and it took this much to get to where we are today. But this is what our people do. We are tireless and we fight. One of the things I would like to know is what's going to happen with people who are on his team, his co-conspirators, the people who helped with the trafficking, because my assumption is that since they don't have the same amount of resources as R. Kelly, they might still be around in some way, shape, or form, these women and other people that he abused. And so I'm wondering what the type of services and support that they're going to get, because I want to make sure that all of us are doing our best to support them as well.
Great point.
Yeah, it's a great point.
Yeah, go ahead.
And I think that, being that this was charged under RICO and there's a conspiracy, there's no conspiracy without your conspirators. So we hope that additional charges will be brought against the people who enabled and helped him in this criminal ring for decades. We're really, really hoping that that's the case also, because they all need to be held accountable.
Julianne?
You know, this case is a really important case around intersectionality. So many Black people feel like we have to rally around the Black person. And often when we do that, we put women at the periphery. We don't really necessarily look at Black women. And oftentimes we want to have this conversation about, well, what's wrong with her, as opposed to what's wrong with the perpetrator. Have you, and you mentioned early on in the interview, that there was a pressure to support R. Kelly because he's a Black man. How have you worked this intersectionality out, and what can we learn from this in terms of the many ways that Black women are sidelined?
Yeah, I mean, that's such a great question and such an important topic that our community needs to be discussing, because you're absolutely correct. We have a knee-jerk reaction to support Black men when we see them in the news for something negative, but we don't have that same default when it comes to Black women. And so, you know, whenever a Black woman comes forward, there's a lot of questions, there's a lot of moralizing, there's a lot of, well, why did you? And never is the focus placed where the focus needs to be, and that's on the perpetrator of the abuse against that Black woman. And so this has been a real difficult movement to navigate because you have to, one, kind of engage Black people in that double standard, and that's a hard thing to do. And you also have to get them to understand that supporting our sisters is just as important as supporting our brothers, because our sisters are the foundations of our family. And so if we are going to continue to throw our sisters aside and ignore them when they say they have issues and problems that need help, that need resources, and when they need protection, their ability to form whole, healthy Black families, which is the cornerstone of a whole and healthy Black community, is compromised. So we need to do so much of a better job of really listening to our sisters and checking the ego and some of the kind of training that we've all had. I'm the exact same way. We've all had this training. The man's trying to bring the Black man down, but we ignore a lot of the real facts. Black women are the fastest growing incarcerated community. Black women have some of the biggest health disparities in this nation. Black women are getting paid less than everybody else on the totem pole. Black women are experiencing rape and abuse more often than any other group. The largest complaint against the police is not misconduct against Black men, it's rape and sexual abuse against women. So, you know, our needs are not being met. And we are so socialized to be strong, to soldier on, to stand up for our brothers, that we often don't stand up for ourselves. And I think we're seeing a shift now in our culture with Me Too and a lot of these other movements of Black women saying, hold up, no more. You can't put anything else on my back. I am not a mule. I need help. I need resources. You're going to listen to my problems. And when I ask for justice, I'm not going to stop until I get it. And I think that that's a wonderful turning point for us as a community, because we can't go anywhere without our sisters as a whole, as a society. We want to talk about economic empowerment or political empowerment. There is nothing we can do without our sisters being there whole and healthy and supported and loved. And so we need to be having a different conversation just as a community of how we treat Black women and how we see and value Black women.
He is going down. This is the New York case. You still have 2 other states. Then you still have a Georgia investigation. Are you others encouraging feds to continue there as well? Because sometimes what happens is someone's found guilty in another jurisdiction and they don't move on those particular cases as well. Your thoughts on what they should do next in the other 2 states?
Oh, absolutely. We want to see justice done wherever there are cases to be had, and especially here in Georgia, because that is where this movement started. And that family who started the outcry that led to all this still has not been reunited with their daughter. And so we absolutely want to see that investigation continue here and justice be done here as well and everywhere. He doesn't get off the hook in any of these cases in our eyes. So he needs to go and sit in front of his accusers, and they deserve to have their day in court. And so we're going to keep pressing until all of these cases are complete.
All right, then. Veronica K., we appreciate it. Thanks a lot. If people want more information on the Mute R. Kelly movement, where do they go?
They can go to our website, muterkelly.com, or official Mute R. Kelly on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter.
All right, we appreciate it. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
To our panel, I think that what this case has also done, it is challenged a lot of folks who made a series of excuses. If you go back to him being acquitted in 2008, and I make the point again, he was not acquitted of, the jury did not say that wasn't R. Kelly on the tape. They said they couldn't ascertain the age of the young girl in that video that was circulated. In fact, someone actually sent a copy of that videotape to us at blackamericaweb.com when I was the founding editor of Tom Joyner's website. And it was, folks were absolutely trying to get his attention, trying to get the attention of the authorities. But you had folks who still played the music, who still were inviting him, who was, I remember one of the years when he was actually on the Tom Joyner cruise. It was sort of like, who the hell invited R. Kelly? You still had him performing at major events as well. And the point that she makes there, it was the biggest battle that folks had in bringing justice for R. Kelly were black folks, fighting black folks. That was a big issue right there.
Well, the reason for that is that black folks know their history, and that has included really a targeting of black men around sex crimes. I mean, we have a lynching museum in this country for a reason. So, I think we always have to have this balance in our community of knowing two things at the same time. And we can know that R. Kelly is guilty and at the same time understand that there's a lot of racism and hatred directed specifically at black men and, quite frankly, violence. And that particular ritual of lynching, of course, includes sexual violence in itself. So obviously African Americans in the United States, we have a more complicated history than anybody else. And we have to juggle all of these questions at the same time. It's not that you don't know that somebody's guilty. You know that somebody's guilty, and you also know that there are things that happen that are unjust in our justice reform, in our justice system that are not right, that are specifically directed to certain groups.
And that's one of those things where and again, I'm looking at whether it's R. Kelly, whether we're dealing with COVID, we're dealing with all kinds, how the history and the suspicions that black folks have, how it's also weaponized against black people.
Right.
And you saw that. You saw that in this R. Kelly case. You saw folks who were like, and let's just also be honest, you had people who were like, yo, I can keep getting paid. I can keep getting paid because he was still writing songs, he was still performing. I mean, there are people today who will still insist, hey man, dance to the music.
Roland, part of the ugly underbelly of this R. Kelly case is the denigration of black women and the willingness of so many others to accept the denigration of black women. We are the lowest on the totem pole in terms of earnings. We are at more risk for COVID than many others because we're in those essential jobs. And we are basically detritus to so many people. R. Kelly and too many black men. I was reflecting, I'm writing a piece right now about Melvin Van Peebles, Sweetback. And I met him. It was one of my first Broadway plays as a kid to go to. He was brilliant, But it's so easy for folks to throw Black women away. It is so easy for folks to denigrate Black women, to use us as objects, and Ben Peoples did that. Now, I love Sweet Sweetback. I love Ain't Supposed to Die a Natural Death, but I also am pained at the ways that Black women become throwaways. And for R. Kelly, we were throwaways. I don't care what happened to him when he was a child. He chose to discard Black women. And this is something that we Black thinkers, writers, etc., need to call folks on all the time.
One of the things, Congo, that this case also caused people to force them to reckon with is, and I think it's fair to have the conversation, Marvin Gaye, treatment of women, underage women, James Brown, domestic violence. I mean, we can bring up a number of other artists, but these are still artists that we celebrate and play their music. So how do we have a reckoning? Can there, in your opinion, can there actually be a situation where somebody says, hey, I still want to play their music, we can still dance to their music, but that doesn't mean that we actually support them?
I think that for many of these issues, it can be situational. I think that with R. Kelly, for example, I think particularly when you have trials and convictions, people need to really start working on saying we can't be down with this anymore. I think in situations of the Marvin Gayes and other people of the like, those stories need to also be out there so people can make their decisions about that. Because one of the things that people like to say, well, the times were different. That was the same argument they used with Bill Cosby, right? There's never any justification for this. And so I think that these are real conversations that we need to have. I saw a story about a documentary about Rick James that is coming out and his stories as it relates to women. And we have to make it known for everybody, especially for future artists. When
not just the Rick James documentary. I was just watching the Muhammad Ali documentary when he was when he was introduced to one of his wives who was 16. And he had visited her class years before. And he was encouraged by his manager, Herbert Muhammad, to date her. She was 16. I mean, again, I was just watching. It was the Ken Burns documentary. I saw the Blood Brothers on Netflix. This was in the Ken Burns documentary.
And see, that's another one that I was not aware of because I haven't gotten to that documentary yet. And so I think that we really, what we have to do at the end of the day is we have to tell the complete story. You know, I'm raising daughters, I'm raising a son, and, you know, we got future artists coming out, out here who need to know that going forward, they're more likely to become like R. Kelly than to be celebrated like somebody like a Marvin Gaye or somebody like that. You know, when we look at this right now, I just feel like we have to have a discussion about it all. One of the things we also have to have a discussion about is I know many Black women who also supported R. Kelly and still do, and why that's also problematic. So I don't have the exact answer, Roland, about where do we go in the past, but what I do know is that we need to expose it all. Any artist who did it, any artist who wrote about it, any artist who talked about it, convictions especially, ban everything. But we need to at very least have a conversation and an accounting, a reckoning of what our artists from the past did as well going forward. And we have to at least do that. And we're not even doing that because we're like, that's how it was back then. It was wrong back then and it's wrong now.
And there's also another documentary out on a lot of rock bands and what they were engaged in with underage girls and groupies on the road, things along those lines. And so we're not talking about just what Black artists were. We're talking about Black artists, white artists. We're talking about, again, a culture that was encouraged, and to the point that our previous guest was making, the music industry has to also. There are music execs. There are record labels that also have to atone for their sins because they saw what was happening on the road. They saw what was happening in recording studios. But as long as hits were being pumped out, they did not care.
And they can hear what's happening in the music.
Yeah.
I mean, we hear.
Ask Omakongo, so what do you say to your daughters? They're young women. They're hearing this music. What do you say to them? How do you get them to balance it?
Young daughters and young sons. Go ahead.
Yes, I tell them, look, y'all are not listening to folks who are out there who are accused of domestic violence or committing these acts. Another one who was murdered, I believe, last year or the year before, Triple X Tentacion. You know, he had a track on the Spider-Man Miles Morales soundtrack, which they love, and I'm like, we're not playing that song. So what I'm doing with them is I'm having an honest conversation with, these were some of the guys that I listened to growing up. Some of these stories I didn't know about. I found out too late. Some of these stories, like R. Kelly, as soon as I found out about Aaliyah, I was done with him. And I let them know about the challenges that I've had letting go of music that I've been attached to. But at the end of the day, it needs to be done. And so I let them know that particularly when it comes to abusers and pedophiles, we can't mess with them in the music in our household. And they understand.
You must not be listening to much rap music. Because obviously the level of misogyny in rap music alone, and frankly, a lot of rock and roll. I mean, if I remember reading correctly, Jerry Lee Lewis married his 15 or 16-year-old cousin, and two of his wives turned up dead, and nobody ever talks about that. He's still alive.
Hold on. First, it's talked about that also destroyed his career. But you're right. But that is fact. That's what actually happened. Yep.
I mean,
I'm a rapper as well. I just want to say, like,
if we're going by,
hold on. I'm a Congo, then Lauren. Go ahead.
I'm a rapper as well, and I teach a lot of courses on hip hop as well. And so you are absolutely right. We are having these conversations about the misogyny. We're having conversations about the language. And one of the things, my daughters are 15 and 13, so we can have these conversations. My son is 6, so we got a while to go in terms of the lyrics, but we have other conversations. And I'm letting them know, when you're listening to this music, what is it making you want to do? Why are you tolerating this? Because what I'm teaching them to do is to be critical thinkers about this music that they're listening to, because I can't shield them from it all. But yes, you are absolutely right. These are conversations we also need to have as it relates to music and the lyrics, and not just the physical actions that people are doing off the mic. I'm with you, Lauren.
Lauren, go.
Yeah. I think the level of patriarchy that we hear in a lot of music in particular, not just rap, rock and roll as well, is off the chain. And, you know, if we're going to get real about really changing the game on some of these things, I think the lyrics and the music has more power than any prosecution of anybody. I mean, I think that music reaches more people and puts forward a certain, image about women in particular, and has a power that goes on for years and decades, more than any prosecution that can happen in any courtroom in this country. So it's interesting to think about this idea of, one person going to jail for 20 and 30 years. I'm not saying that shouldn't happen, but, there's a lot. Who was it? C. Dolores Tucker years ago had brought this up.
But you know what? But here's the deal, though.
Everybody.
But the problem has been the battle when it comes to music has been against the artist, when the battle should be taken to the labels. See, that's
right.
Right. And what I'm saying is, but what has happened is, so what it sets up is, right, C. Dolores Tucker versus Tupac, or versus NWA, and then you had Calvin Butts against rappers. While the record labels were sitting there saying, "Y'all cashed them checks yet?"
Right,
Y'all cashed those checks yet? And they kept getting paid. Yep.
That's right. They greenlighted sexism. They greenlighted the N-word. That was not
right. And again, we saw what happened when Michael Jackson made some comments about Jews in his CD, and how they shut that down real quick and made him destroy all copies of that were already pressed That is a difference. Got to go to break, folks. We come back. We're going to talk about several different cases. Black and missing, that's one case. Also, a black man who is taking folks to court over being attacked by a K-9 dog. That is next. Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
I believe that people our age have lost the ability to focus the discipline on the art of organizing.
The challenges, there's so many of them and they're complex, and we need to be moving to address them. But I'm able to say, watch out, Tiffany. I know this road.
That is so freaking dope.
Time to be smart.
Roland Martin's doing this every day.
Oh, no punches!
Thank you, Roland Martin, for always giving voice to the issues.
Look for Roland Martin in the whirlwind, to quote Marcus Garvey again.
The video looks phenomenal, so I'm really excited to see it on my big screen.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
I got to defer to the brilliance of Dr. Carr and to the brilliance of the Black Star Network.
I am rolling with Roland all the way. Honored to be on a show that you own. A black man owns the show.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
I'm real revolutionary right now. Roland was amazing on there.
Stay black. I love y'all.
I can't commend you enough about this platform that you've created for us to be able to share who we are, what we're doing in the world, and the impact that we're having.
Let's be smart. Bring your eyeballs home.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared. You dig?
This is Diala Riddle, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered. Stay woke.
Deidre Reid is a 41-year-old black woman missing from Pageland, South Carolina. She's been missing since September 3rd, 2021. She was headed to the Greyhound bus station in Charlotte, North Carolina to drop her son's father, Emmanuel Bedford, off. Deidre was last seen driving a gray 2004 Tahoe with a South Carolina license plate, FXU 718, FXU 718. The vehicle also had a New York Giants tag on the front of the SUV. She wore gray sweatpants, a light pink and white shirt, and white Air Force One shoes with her hair in a ponytail. The family is offering a $10,000 reward for information that leads them to find Deidre. If you have any information about Deidre, please call the Pageland Police Department at 843-672-6437, 843-672-6437. Again, that number, 843-672-6437. As I said, she has been missing since September 3rd. Missing since September 3rd after going to the Greyhound bus station in Charlotte, North Carolina to drop off her son's father at the bus stop. So, folks, they definitely, if you have any information, please call the police department. Well, so Washington State man sues Michigan State Police after being victim to a vicious K-9 attack in 2019. Robert Gilliam III was visiting the state in November of 2019 when the state trooper stopped him after receiving a call of a stolen vehicle. In the video, you will see former trooper Parker Solbrook letting his K-9 partner repeatedly assault an unarmed Gilliam. Watch this.
Stop him! Stop him! Stop him! Stop him! Stay out of the drive, mother. Hey! Stop him! Stop him! Stop him! Stop him! Stop him! Get out of the stop him! Stop him! Stay on him! Stay on him! Stay on him! Don't move! Don't move! Stop! Hey, don't you! Hey, put your hands up! Don't move! got me! Get over! Give me that guy!
Washington is Robert Gilliam III and his attorney Maurice Davis from Detroit, Michigan. Glad to have both of you on the show. Let me first start here. So, Robert, you were stopped. You were stopped supposedly for a stolen vehicle.
No.
So I said supposedly. What actually happened here?
Can I talk, Mr. Davis? I thought it was a.
Yes, I can explain what happened, Mr. Martin, if I may.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm representing Mr. Gilliam. So the officer gets behind my client. He attempts to pull him over. My client doesn't stop. He is involved in a very short chase. My client eventually crashes into a tree. After crashing into the tree, the impact, it caused his hip to break. So he exits the vehicle. He realizes that he couldn't put any weight on his legs, so he collapsed to the ground. After collapsing to the ground, he spread his hands out and was surrendering. He said, okay, I'm done. I'm giving up. Arrest me. Trooper Serbrook pulls up with his K-9 and orders the dog to attack him immediately.
First, why was he stopped?
He was pulling him over for a traffic offense. I'm not sure exactly what that traffic offense was, but just a simple traffic infraction.
Okay, so he was pulling him over for a traffic offense, and you said a chase commenced. What was the reason for the chase?
He didn't stop immediately. I mean, there's, some African Americans, they panic when police get behind them. Gotcha. So my client, he panicked. He didn't stop. He was involved in a very short, high-speed chase, crashed into that tree, and injured himself.
Okay, so crashes to a tree. And then he clearly isn't. You look at the video; he's not going anywhere. So
he couldn't.
You see the video, and the dog is literally on top of him. And first of all, based upon this, there were two people in the vehicle.
Yes, there were two individuals in the vehicle: my client and a relative.
All right. So here you see in the video, the cop leaves where the dog is, like, okay, dog got him, and he's just gnawing at you, pulling at you, and then he comes up to the other side, then sort of comes back. How long, and like you see the video now, he's walking away, and he's yelling, pull the audio up, please. We hear you, Robert, begging the cop. He's just sort of walking off, and he's telling the dog, stay on him.
Yes. He actually said he don't. The dog was biting me on my face.
Hold up. Okay, here's what I'm trying to understand. You got one officer who was on the other side of the car. You've got this officer yelling at the dog to stay on him. What doesn't make sense to me is, why didn't he simply pull the dog off and handcuff you or whatever, but just keep the dog on you? Robert, go ahead.
I don't care. I'm not moving, sir. I'm not moving. Got him.
I'm sorry. Guys, go to Robert, please. Thank you. Guys, cut to Robert, please. Away from the video. Come on. Cut. Thank you. Go ahead, Robert. Go ahead.
I don't know what was going through his head at that time. This is not my first time that I've actually been in trouble with the law, but I know officers are supposed to handle you accordingly, hold up right to their standards of when they take that vow to be a police officer. And I think he took it too far, because I kind of put him on a chase. Right now it's 2021, and look what they're doing to African Americans. So yes, I was scared, for my life a little bit, what people is going through right now, especially African American as males, what we're going through with police officers. So I was kind of scared for my life, but I didn't know that taking it that he was going to take it that far to snare a dog, almost viciously, just eat me up and almost kill me. I was asking him, I was pleading for my life, like, sir, can you get the dog off of me? And once I said, you know, he was biting me in my face, he says, I don't care. So that's something that I'm going to court for, you know what I'm saying? And I just want justice, and for the, you know what I'm saying, for the other black males that's going through the same thing that I'm going through. Thank God I just got a voice that I can speak out about it. And that's what I'm doing right now, is just plead my case, you know what I'm saying? Because if that was me, on the other foot, if that was me, I already been locked up in prison doing my time and everything.
Were there any charges actually filed against you?
Oh, yes, it's charged against them, yes.
If I can answer that.
Okay, Maurice, go ahead.
Yeah, no, there were no charges filed against him. We actually got an immunity agreement from the prosecutor's office for his testimony against the officer.
Okay, so he's pulled over supposedly for a traffic stop. A chase ensues. No charges are filed. You get an immunity agreement to testify against the police officer who was charged in March.
Yes,
that's correct. And my client, he already testified in phase 1. The officer, he was charged with felonious assault. In Michigan, that's up to a 4-year felony. So at the beginning of a case, you have your arraignment, and you have your probable cause conference, then you have your preliminary exam. Preliminary exam is where witnesses against a defendant testify, and they have to show that there is what's called probable cause that a crime was committed and probable cause that that defendant committed that particular crime. So in this case, my client, he went in, he testified in Lansing. The judge listened to his testimony. The judge watched the video and ruled that there was probable cause to charge Trooper Serbrook with felonious assault. The case was then bound over to circuit court, where he's going to stand trial.
You filed this particular lawsuit. You filed it when?
The lawsuit's been filed for about a month now. We're alleging violations of my client's civil rights, along with pain and suffering. We're asking for a verdict in excess of $1 million. It's been filed in the Western District of Michigan.
Obviously, Robert, it has to be very difficult to have to watch that video and relive that. Do you still have any continuing injuries as a result of this car crash and this dog attack?
Oh, yes. I walk on a cane long distance, and I can't bend down like I used to, even though I'm 42 years old, But I make the best of it. I have the dog bite scars on my body, that I never can't get rid of. That's and my kids see that, sometimes they be like, my daughter asks me well, Dad, what's that right there? What's that big old scar? And I have to tell her, I have to tell her the truth. So I live with it day to day,
Well, we certainly appreciate both of you being with us. We will follow this case to see where it goes next.
Thank you for having us.
All right, Robert, Maurice, thank you as well. We talk a lot repeatedly on this show, Omekongo, about the actions of police and how when you have training, things along those lines. Look, I get it. A car chase ensues, but a dog gnawing on somebody, look, that's real. We've seen other videos as well where these officers will stick a K-9 dog on someone and they're yelling and screaming in pain. The officer just allows the dog to continue. So when we talk about police training, that also applies to how they use K-9 dogs against citizens.
Absolutely. I mean, I didn't even see a reason for the K-9 to be deployed when the man is already on the ground. I mean, and then the words that just keep playing in my head, the stay on him, the stay on him. And like you said, he's just walking around the whole scene as if it's almost like he sounds angry, but it's almost nonchalant at the same time. And I understand that there's a lot of adrenaline. I know the police are also angry as well. But again, it goes down to training. When somebody gets out of the car and they are not moving and you see no gun, they're not a clear threat, this just borders on the line of torture. I'm just on the line. This is torture. And he still has these scars that he has to deal with. I don't care how many run-ins he's had with the law before. Nobody deserves that. And it makes me wonder why that type of deal that he was talking about with immunity or something to the like was struck, because maybe there's something about this officer we don't know. But this just goes against any type of training I've ever heard any police officer talk about, and it's torture.
Lauren?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of times what we see on this video is the adrenaline and really, particularly after any sort of chase, sometimes law enforcement officers sort of, I don't want to say panic, but they get a little bit overly excited, which is what I think happened to this particular officer. And it is what it is in the video. You can the video obviously speaks for itself.
Julian?
Protect and serve. That's what these people are supposed to be doing. Protect and serve. There's no protection. There's no service here. As Obakongo said, this man is down on the ground. There was no need for a dog to be gnawing on him. No need for him to be placed in this position. These people do not see black people as human. That's the bottom line. They don't see us as human, and we need to just throw a whole bunch of them off the police forces and start over. Defund the police does not mean there should never be police. It means that there should be police who know how to be compassionate, who know how to be responsive, who have been trained. And many of them have not been.
Indeed, folks. A similar thing happened last week in St. Louis, Missouri suburb. The Woodson Terrace Police Department is investigating a video surfaced showing officers allowing a K-9 dog to repeatedly bite a black man during an arrest. Officers got called when a man refused to leave a business. Roll the video, please. Guys, thank you. Officers got called when a man refused to leave a business. Now, this is the video you see what happened when the police arrived and they had the man pretty much subdued, yet they just continued to allow the dog to attack him after he was subdued.
Wow.
Do that. He stick the dog on him. God damn. Don't let the dog bite him.
I'm recording it.
That's like a dog. Lord have mercy. That's sad.
You heard?
Oh my God. Are you serious?
Just bite him.
Oh my God! You let him bite him! Girl, girl. Record that.
I am.
Well, look at him.
As we watch this video here, there are 3 police officers. There's one guy. Why do you need the dog biting on the guy when there's 3 cops?
Wow.
Julian.
Again, they don't think of us as human, but even more than that, Roland, dogs have been used against us through enslavement. The symbolism of sicking a dog on a black man, that symbolism is a vestige of enslavement. It should not happen. All those people need to be fired, but they're going to have an excuse. They're going to have an excuse. And what we need to do, and that's why your platform is so important, what we need to do is to rise up and say, oh, hell to the no. Stop it. Just stop it. So this is why I'm disappointed that when we had the George Floyd Policing Act, Cory Booker kind of blinked, and he shouldn't have blinked. It's important for these officers to be held accountable.
Obakongo?
Well, first of all, thank Dr. Mavo for reminding us that the police reform bill has not been passed. It failed, given Senator Scott's shenanigans. And I think also when you look at this and when you look at what happened with the Haitians as well, these are like just 2 reminders of days of the past that are still here in the present. And, with these dogs, and the man already surrendered, already there. And it was just like, okay, we got you. Let's just let this dog chew on you. And then again, after they pulled him off and then put him again on it, this is barbaric. This is barbaric. This is savage. And I hope that there's a lawsuit as well and real discipline. But once we get this Police Reform Act actually passed, these officers' names will be hopefully on that list as well.
It's crazy, again, Lauren, when you have 3 police officers, and if you have 2 cops who can't subdue one man who's up against the car, no. These cops wanted this dog to chew on this man, and that's exactly what happened here.
Yeah, and the other thing, too, to, of course, take note of is that, these videos are not coming out of Palm Springs or Manhattan. They choose people that they think can't fight back against the system. They typically choose poor people. And, the game is changing a little bit on that in terms of civil litigation. But it's uncanny how so many of these videos seem to come out of the same socioeconomic places.
Well, it's also why you got to keep shooting video. This is also why the people who want to stop us from being able to record cops need to be stopped themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. We wouldn't know about any of this stuff. Imagine what was going on before we had the first iPhone that came out that really could do really good video, which isn't that long ago. It was like 7 or 8 years ago.
Because you get a lot of these folks, who've been fighting dash cam videos and body cams.
Right,
to this day.
Exactly right. And here's why. And then you would think the police would want cameras because, in fact, if you're behaving properly, why do you care what's on the camera? See, if you're doing the right thing, then you shouldn't be concerned about what's on the camera. It actually protects the cops to some degree, they could argue, from any sort of false allegation against them. But it's interesting, the fight against cameras.
But see, it's no false allegation against them. They don't want cameras because they don't want people to know what they're doing. They don't want cameras because they don't want transparency. This spit, I said spit, Roland, I'm cussing on your air. This spit has been happening since Black people have been in this country, through enslavement, through Reconstruction, Tulsa, Wilmington, Delaware, Wilmington, North Carolina, rather, 1896. This stuff has been happening. We now have the technology to basically lift it up. But even without the technology, we have the oral histories to know what has happened to our people. And this is the issue that so-called law enforcement is afraid of. They are afraid that they have been operating as a rogue group of racists who feel like whatever they want to, they can basically just oppress Black people.
Absolutely, folks. They're just, again, when we see these stories, and then we see what didn't happen. Over the weekend, of course, you had Senator Tim Scott, who was on Face the Nation, and he was blaming Democrats for the George Floyd Justice Act not passing, saying that it didn't pass because they wanted to defund the police. Let's just be real clear. Tim Scott is lying. The bottom line is that, and we had Congresswoman Karen Bass on the show. She shared with us all that they were trying to do, all that they did, all of the different ways that they were providing, giving in to the demands. But what was real interesting here is that over the weekend, again, we saw Tim Scott making all these claims, but he won't fully come out. And what I understand is, why not do it sitting next to Senator Cory Booker? Why not actually, first of all, let's come to a Black source. We know that ain't gonna happen. We've been trying to get him on the show for the last 3 or 4 years. He won't do it. But it says a whole lot that Senator Tim Scott will say that the Democrats are trying to defund the police. No, Senator Tim Scott failed. Because you heard what Congresswoman Karen Bass said. Mitch McConnell was like, a bill that he brings to us, we're gonna be able to support. Also keep in mind, y'all, Senator Tim Scott's trying to run for president. So all of this, okay, let's blame defund the police. How can he say, let's blame defund the police, when according to Congresswoman Karen Bass, you had Senator Cory Booker who went out and cut a deal, with the police unions. So I'm sort of confused. So here is, matter of fact, I want to pull up the right soundbite here so we can, this is what Tim Scott said on Face the Nation. Listen.
Wasn't a net loss of funding. In fact, there was funding being increased in terms of increased mental health funding specifically, that there were specific programs for recruitment and training funding increases, body-worn camera funding increases, data collection.
Yes.
So that's not cutting funding. It's might be allocating it in different ways.
Actually, here's what we know. We have about $1 billion in grant money that goes to police. When you start saying in order to receive those dollars, you must do A, B, and C, and if you don't do A, B, and C, you literally lose eligibility for the two major pots of money, the burn grants and the COP grants. When you tell local law enforcement agencies that you are ineligible for money, that's defunding the police. There's no way to spin that. You can spin it by saying—
But this would codify the Trump executive orders.
Let me finish. The Trump executive order I actually agreed to. What I did not agree to was the cuts that come from non-compliance. When you say, once again, that in order for you to receive the money for the burn grants or the COP grants, you must do the following. And if you don't do the following, you lose money. That's more defunding the police. We saw that tried throughout the country. You wouldn't want to cut funding for underperformance, is what you're saying? Not at all. I would say
you would want to increase to police departments that aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing?
Let's look at what we're asking for. What the Democrats asked for was a simple thing. They asked for more reporting on serious bodily injury to death. I said that's a great idea. When they wanted to nationalize local policing, I said that's a bad idea. When they say that every single traffic stop in this country must be reported to the federal government, whether it's a traffic ticket or stopping someone on the streets of New York or Charleston, every single time that you have any interaction, for the federal government to be in charge of all that information, I say let's do it, but let's do it voluntarily.
Okay. Y'all, that's bullshit. What Senator Tim Scott has laid out is utter bullshit. Let's do it voluntarily. Would y'all like to know the history of voluntarily waiting on police to submit information? Lauren, wasn't there a particular bill that was passed by Congressman Bobby Scott that dealt with the police voluntarily submitting use of force data? What happened? They didn't do it.
Right, they just didn't do it. They just ignored it.
They did not do it. So explain to people how that voluntary bullshit worked on use of force.
Yeah, Tim Scott is a piece of work. I don't understand why he can't just articulate that he's against the policy and just be done with it, you know. But anyway, to your question, Bobby Scott passed a bill that effectively just mandated that you report deaths in custody, in police custody. Because, of course, and this is what's so stupid about what Tim Scott just said, when you have that type of data from police departments, when they have a death in custody, you have the data, you have the demographic data, you have how that person died. Sometimes it could be legit, sometimes it may not be, but you have data that can be used for a lot of things, right? And Tim Scott knows that. And the idea that they were sitting down with this guy and could not agree on something that simple is ridiculous. I'm not sure why Cory Booker, who, by the way, is not known for his stellar ability to get anything passed when it comes to justice reform. I mean, he's good at getting into documentaries and he's good at talking about it, but when it comes to actually passing a piece of legislation, even when the Democrats have the majority, he's not been all that successful. But I'm not sure why he's not lighting up Tim Scott. I mean, his answer when reporters were asking him about this was, I love him and, ooh, he's all right. No, you need to tell us exactly what was going on.
Well, Lola, let me be real clear. We've been trying to get him on the show. The cell phone number I used to have, now his staff monitors that. We sent an email and text message, have not heard back. But again, I need people.
It's embarrassing.
I need people to understand. I need people watching to understand the bullshit that came out of Senator Tim Scott's mouth. I'm gonna play this again and I'm gonna stop it, and I'm gonna give y'all a prime example of how what he said, his own state of South Carolina actually did. Listen to this.
I would say that there wasn't a net loss of funding. In fact, there was funding being increased in terms of increased mental health funding specifically, that there were specific programs for recruitment and training funding increases, body-worn camera funding increases, data collection.
Yes.
So that's not cutting funding. It's might be allocating it in different ways.
Actually, here's what we know. We have about $1 billion in grant money that goes to police. When you start saying in order to receive those dollars, you must do A, B, and C, and if you don't do A, B, and C, you literally lose eligibility for the two major pots of money, the burn grants and the COP grants. When you tell local law enforcement agencies that you are ineligible for money, that's defunding the police. There's no way to spend that. You can spend it by saying.
All right. So let me walk y'all through why what Senator Tim Scott just said is absolutely complete, utter bullshit. There was a time, y'all, in America where the age to drink was 18. Ronald Reagan was president. There was an effort in America to raise the drinking age to 21. There were states that did not want to do that. There were states that were making a lot of money, like Louisiana, off of selling alcohol to folks 18 above. So you know what the federal government did? The federal government said, no problem. States, in order for you to be eligible for federal highway money, you must raise your drinking age to 21. They said, no problem. If y'all want to keep it at 18, keep it at 18. But if you want federal highway funds, you got to raise it to 21. Louisiana was the last state to agree to raise their minimum drinking age to 21. So explain this to me, Senator Tim Scott. If the federal government did that for highway funds, is that not the same by saying if you don't comply with these things, then you're not eligible for this money? I'm sorry. There are numerous other examples where the United States Congress, the House and the Senate, and the president signed into law. There are numerous other examples where the federal government has said, states, in order for you to be eligible for these federal funds, you must do ABC. So I need Senator Tim Scott to explain to me the difference. This is why I'm calling bullshit on what he said, because he's lying. What he does not want to own up to is Senator Tim Scott wants to kiss the ass of the police. Senator Tim Scott didn't have the, and I don't want to hear all that crap, oh, how you've been racially profiled, but damn it, that's why they're asking for the data. They're asking for the data, Tim, because they're tired of law enforcement lying. Why is the data important? And why is the racial designation of the data important? Because then all of a sudden, when they start showing, black people are getting stopped at a 78% higher rate for traffic violations than white people, but black people only comprise a certain percentage of the city. Just hold on. Art Acevedo. Chief Art Acevedo, the former police chief of Houston, Texas, who is now the police chief in Miami. I want to show y'all what he did recently. This is what Chief Acevedo did. He actually came in and stated that he uncovered a pattern of unlawful use of force by officers, and then said the chain of command covered it up. Read. This is what he wrote. Furthermore, since my arrival at MPD in April, I have uncovered a pattern of unlawful use of force by officers, and in some instances, the chain of command has covered up the unlawful use of force by some officers. I have discussed my concern regarding the failure of some MPD supervisors and managers to hold officers accountable for the unlawful use of force. I have begun the process of addressing this issue with the assistance of Deputy Chief Morris, who has extensive experience as the former commander of internal affairs at HPD. And I look forward to obtaining additional help with the position slated for policy and constitutional polling to help reform the department. That might mean constitutional policing. However, during this September 13th commissioner meeting, Commissioners Carollo, Reyes, and Diaz de Portilla manipulated the budget process to hamper my reform by eliminating the funding for the two aforementioned positions, which are critical to any serious reform efforts. So we have examples of some chiefs of police wanting better oversight, of wanting there to actually be real police oversight, but you got local folks who want to stop it because they're in the bed of police. What you're dealing with here is you're dealing with, again, the failure of Senator Tim Scott to actually bring along. Let me say it again. For all of the complaining, from Senator Tim Scott, he has been an abject failure. And so, and let me be real clear, I got Senator Tim Scott's number. Matter of fact, I'm just gonna pull it up. And I'm just gonna let y'all know. I'm scrolling back. The last time Senator Tim Scott has responded to one of my text messages was on March 13th, 2017. I've texted him on June 25th. Matter of fact, let me see. Again, what I don't appreciate is when people like to sit here and play games. I don't like it when they play games, when they want to say things and they don't want to. Just y'all stay right there. Let me go get my device because I'm about to pull this text message up because I'm not interested in just talking. I want to show y'all what I'm talking about. So I'm looking for my device that allows for me to plug it up right to my iPhone. Cause see, and I know for a fact he ain't changed his phone number because I double checked with some other folk to see if this is still his phone number. Now, just like when you had Alan West, who refused to do stuff. So March 13th, 2000, come on, go to my phone. March 13th, 2017, I sent Senator Tim Scott messages here with regards to Congressman Steve King. He responded, okay, laid it out. Then I laid it out what we're going to do. So here's June 25th, 2017. Are you available to do Tom Joyner Morning Show to discuss the GOP's Senate healthcare bill? No response. December 19th, 2018, we should do a sit-down on opportunity zones. No response. January 15th, 2019, are you available to do the Tom Joyner Morning Show in the morning? No response. Then he had a gathering of black senators on February 6, 2019. No response. March 17th, 2019. Available to do Tom Joyner Morning Show. No response. Then Wednesday, I sent him another deal. Can you come on to discuss this here? Let me send him again. I am live right now. You know what? I'm going to actually do one better. Come back to me. Come back to me. Come back to me. Senator Tim Scott, I'm live on my show right now. We're talking about the failure of the Senate to pass the George Floyd Justice Act. Hit me up, call me back, call me or text me, so you could come on the show to explain to our audience, African-American audience, why this failed. I saw you on Face the Nation. I saw all the responses, but I got a whole bunch of other questions. So for instance, I got a whole lot of other questions that I need you to answer because frankly, what I'm hearing is not, I'm not feeling that. So hit me back. This is my number. You text me back, have your people. And if you want to sit down for the full hour, we can do it. In studio, not in studio. You want to sit down for the full 2 hours, we can do that as well. But let's have a real conversation about why this George Floyd Justice Act failed when you and Senator Lindsey Graham promised that y'all were going to actually get this thing done to the George Floyd family. Send. See,
it'll never happen.
See, I told y'all I don't play these games. What Senator Tim Scott walked through, now I want y'all to listen. I want y'all to listen to this one. Listen, watch this. Hold up, let me plug it back. Let me plug it back up because I want to play this other sound bite. And see, this is why, I know you're fine. You can go talk to Margaret Brennan all you want to on Face the Nation, but she ain't going to ask the questions I'm going to ask you. Listen to this.
Senator Cory Booker, who was your partner in this.
Yes.
I mean, this started under the Trump administration. It continued under the Biden administration.
Exactly.
When Republicans in control went nowhere, Democrats in control, it's going nowhere.
But both times, the folks that left the table were the Democrats. Let's just be clear that we have stayed at the table. We said simply this: I am not going to participate in reducing funding for the police after we saw major city after major city to fund the police. Many provisions in this bill that he wanted me to agree to limited or reduced funding for the police. That's a lose-lose proposition. When you reduce funding for police, you actually lose lives in the communities. Our approach was a win-win approach. We want the best wearing the badge, and we want the vulnerable protected. So when you tie funding losses in this legislation, you should expect an allergic reaction from me.
Okay, so again, why that's nonsensical is because you already heard Brennan break it down where the money was going to be shifted. That's not defunding the police. You cannot say, if I give you X amount of dollars and a portion is going to go here and here, you're still getting it. You're literally still getting the money. But what Senator Tim Scott is really saying is, no, we don't want the money to go to mental health. Even though police have said that they are bothered having to do these mental health calls because they're not equipped for it. But see, we don't want to deal with that.
Yeah, some of the unions are for it.
Yeah. And so
some of the unions were for what they were talking about, and Scott stopped it. You know, the other thing that comes to mind, of course, is Walter Scott, who was shot in the back, what was it, 5 or 6 times a few years ago, and Lindsey Graham and Senator Tim Scott got all emotional about it, and we've got to do something about police brutality, and then nothing happened. I actually think the real question here, too, is why are they talking to Tim Scott? You're in control of Congress and the White House. Why are you talking to people and negotiating?
Easy, because hold on. While we were on the air, to your point, Senate Republicans blocked the increase in the debt limit. And the same thing, because they're like, it's on y'all.
You pass what you can pass with the majority, and what you can't pass, you can't pass.
No, but here's my whole point.
What you need 60 votes for, you need 60 votes for.
Hold up. Do you need 60 votes? Wait a minute. Do you need 60 votes for the George Floyd Justice Act, or is the real problem you got Manchin and Sinema, who they refuse to put real pressure on to submit to breaking the filibuster?
Absolutely, and that is the ultimate problem. But there are typically other vehicles of legislation, of course, that pass that you can insert language into. And there's no reason why George Floyd can't be one of those packages you insert into something that's maybe a 50-vote margin vote. That you have to make a deal another way. But why Cory Booker and these people think that they're going to get anywhere with Mitch McConnell and Tim Scott on justice reform, that is fantasy world. It's absolute fantasy.
Hey, Juliana, is what I said to Congresswoman Karen Bass. I had absolutely no faith, zero, nada.
That's right.
None. That Senator Tim Scott and Lindsey Graham were going to be able to bring over 8 other Republicans. I had none.
And you're absolutely right to have none. I mean, many of us believe that faith works, but it don't work this time. What we've got going on here is basically Republicans, they don't care about public policy. They don't care about people. They care about winning. And that's all they care about. And so when you see someone like a Mitt Romney, who knows better? I mean, I could call out the name of 10 Republican senators who know better, but they're not going to do better because they don't have to. They're not going to do better because this is a story of how essentially Republicans and them Trumpies have essentially taken over the Republican Party and made decency a marginal value. There, 20 years ago, you look, 30, 40, the Rockefellers, there's so many people who we didn't agree with them on money, but they were decent. Now there is no decency in the Republican Party, and that's why your faith was misplaced.
Congo?
I noticed that you said he hadn't texted you since, I think, March of 2017. That coincides with 2 months after Trump came into office. So he was clearly being strategic from the jump in terms of his allegiance. I mean, he's not an honest broker. Just like Lauren was saying, the Republicans are not honest brokers. Like all of us said, we knew it was doomed from the start. And let's be clear. Money is not given to anybody without any types of stipulations. I mean, Dean Malveaux knows this. You get college scholarship there, you get a bad grade, you lose the money. So he's sitting there talking to Brennan, and Brennan is saying twice, you are fine with underperforming departments still getting money? And he says yes. And then on top of that, in the next clip, he says he wants the best officers. They want these guys to continue to operate with impunity. And when he talks about this defunding the police, the Republicans did everything they can to block everything that Biden has done that would actually give more money to the police and give more money to the communities that they serve so that they wouldn't have to be called and come out and have to, like you said, be the social worker, be the mental health worker, and they block that. So just because in this society we are not able to think critically, we got these trigger words, and whenever we hear something like defund the police or woke or critical race theory or whatever, we immediately go into our silos. He's using that, and he's going to use that all the way into a presidential campaign. I'm glad you are exposing this, and we got to get rid of this filibuster, and we got to make this happen. You just talked about what the Republicans did. They are masters at minority rule. And they are doing the Democrats right now. It's ridiculous.
Look, this is a tweet right here. Listen to this. This guy, Will Selden. 3 times in this interview, Senator Tim Scott defines conditional grants to police departments, offering to give them money if they comply with rules such as banning chokeholds as defunding the police. The phrase defunding the police has lost all meaning.
Yeah, well, see, that's why he won't come on your show, Roland, because you are going to ask him detailed questions about what that burn grant money goes to, which, by the way, is usually things like body-worn cameras, police equipment. So, as the interviewer on CBS said, even though she didn't conduct a particularly good interview, she made the point, he's not talking about a net loss of money. He's talking, of course, about the stipulations required under the burn grant program, which has been around forever. This is not new. So he threw that defund police out there just as a hot button thing when that's not what happened. Because as you already brought up, he's lying. He can't withstand that type of questioning from a Roland Martin. Like, that's not, you're not going to get away with that in an interview with Roland Martin. You're not. You're not going to be able to bullshit your way through that conversation. So what it requires is for somebody to walk up to him physically, which I'm going to try to do tomorrow on Capitol Hill, and ask him. I mean, you can't. I'm sure that reporters have probably already tried to do this, but it's an in-person conversation. There's no doubt about it, and he knows exactly what he's doing. It's a PR game.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, I think that when you look at it, he wouldn't give Roland the interview because Roland would roast his chestnuts on open fire. But even more than that, he is unwilling to be accountable. So he's Mr. Bojangles. I mean, he plays the game. He's black. He's down. He's been profiled. You know, and at the same time, what he's doing is he is essentially blocking progress.
Which why not just say you disagree with the policy? So what's new about that?
Because he wants to be reelected in South Carolina, which is about a third black. And if they ever saw his true colors, black folks will be running from him. He wants to be, as Roland said earlier, he would love to run for president of the United States. And in order to do that, he has some Bojangles around the white people who he will depend on. We need to know who supports him. In other words, who gives him?
First of all, we already know who supports him. We already know who gives him money. Okay, it's established. It's the same as the other Republicans. But here's the deal: what I cannot tolerate is the bullshit fucking lying. I can't tolerate that. Look, okay, this is not hard, y'all, and this is very simple. Go to my computer. This is all you typed in. What type of grant does the federal government prefer? This is what I typed in. How does the federal government stipulate conditional grants? Right. Listen to what I just told y'all. All I typed in was, how does the federal government stipulate conditional grants? Which is what Senator Tim Scott was whining about in that clip on Face the Nation. Okay, look, the Congressional Research Service informing the legislative debate since 1914. This is dated May 22nd, 2019. Federal grants to state and local governments, a historical perspective on contemporary issues. Go to page 3. Okay, page 3. A continuum of federal grant administrative conditions. Of the 6 grant types, project categorical grants typically impose the most restraint on recipients. Federal administrators have a high degree of control over who receives project categorical grants. Recipients must apply to the appropriate federal agency for funding and compete against other potential recipients who also meet the program's specified eligibility criteria. Recipients have relatively little discretion concerning aided activities. Funds must be used for narrowly specified purposes, and there is a relatively high degree of federal administrative conditions attached to the grant, typically involving the imposition of, listen to me, y'all, typically involving the imposition of federal standards for planning, project selection, fiscal management, administrative organization, and performance. So what I am walking y'all through, is that right now, Senator Tim Scott has more than likely, and when I say more than likely, probably a 100%. It's likely 100% that Senator Tim Scott has actually voted for these very type of grants that he is now complaining about.
That's right. Trump was president in 2019. He didn't say anything then.
And you heard her say in one of the clips, what they were talking about was in the Trump executive order.
Right.
And he cut her off.
Right. He cut her off.
He cut her off.
Yeah.
And I supported that. See, this is the part of the problem that I have with shows like Face the Nation, because they talk to him about a whole bunch of stuff. No, that's when you say, no, we throwing the rest of that out. We gonna stay on this topic. In fact, this is when you say, you know what? Bump that other guest. I need to keep this going for 10 more minutes. But see, that's not what they want to do. They don't want to sit here and actually do that, because then, he won't come back.
Right.
He's not going to come back.
Right. And who cares, by the way?
Predatory capitalism. It's the way that these shows operate. They operate to basically maximize their profits and minimize the voices of the people. I think that Sister Girl was doing a great job up to a point, but but then she drops it. She just blocking drops it.
And see, just so everybody knows, again, after he went on Face the Nation, here is Tim Scott talking to Trey Gowdy, former congressman from South Carolina, who now works at Fox News. Listen.
His buddy.
Yeah, these guys are, let me see if I can reset this here.
They're good friends.
Oh, yeah. Okay, just so y'all know, again, how the cute little game is played. Here we go.
Joining us, Senator, the Democrats left the negotiating table twice. Why?
Yeah. Dre, it looks like they have just, they're managing so many crises. I think they're looking for a way to give Biden a win. Think about Afghanistan crisis, the border crisis, crisis in the Middle East, a crisis of spending, crisis in taxing. So they're putting politics over people and focusing on a partisan victory. They're actually going to look for the perfect and make it the enemy of the good. I simply cannot understand my friends on the other side who must have forgotten what it feels like to live in marginalized communities, wanting police to be there to protect you, thinking about those single moms who come home late at night. They want protection. And 81% of African Americans, Trey, say they want the same level or more police. And you listen to the other side, they're elites. They must not care.
Okay. See, this is the game they play. This is the game they play. 81% of African Americans want to feel safe. Yeah. I don't know anybody who prefers to be unsafe.
Right.
But what Senator Tim Scott did not mention on Fox News is the damn near $1 billion local governments have paid out in police abuse cases. What you hear Senator Tim Scott did not mention was the 2 cases we showed y'all of K-9 dogs attacking 2 black men. What he didn't mention is Laquan McDonald's case in Chicago, where the cops lied about the shooting and Van Dyke was convicted. He didn't mention the cop in Florida who's in prison for shooting a brother who was in the choir. The cop was driving an unmarked van and walked up on the brother and damn near immediately started shooting. See, he ain't mentioned none of those cases. See, what Senator Tim Scott will never say to Fox News and own up to is black people want to feel safe in their communities. What they don't want are being beaten by cops, being lied on by cops. That's what they don't want. But I guess he overlooks those marginalized voices.
No, that's right, of course. I mean, this is the game. His game is all about making sure that nobody is in a position to ask him questions for more than, 2 or 3 minutes, because it can't withstand, this routine cannot withstand 3 or 4 minutes of specific questions. And he knows that. This is the PR game. And that's why I don't know why the big charade. You know, if it was any other senator, if it was Jim Inhofe or some conservative Republican, they would have said, look, I'm not for this. I don't want to change anything about policing. I'm not in favor of the George Floyd Act, so I don't want to talk about it. So why did we just go through this big charade? Why did Tim Scott want to appear as if he was interested? For what?
But Laura,
I mean,
he wants to be relevant. He wants Black people to think well of him. So it was a great optic for him to say he was going to do this and to sit with Karen Bass and to sit with the others. It was a great optic. But he never in his entire lifetime, planned to move any closer to Bass and the others around the George Floyd Transparency in Policing Act. What he did.
The flip side is, you know, Congresswoman Bass and Senator Booker should have called a press conference and lit his ass up right after this happened, that we found out that the talks had broken off. Because this whole kumbaya, this whole routine that they're doing of not specifically bringing up the dysfunction and the fact that the Republican Party is not interested in serious policy, in serious federal policy, that needs to be pointed out as much as possible.
Okay, so here's the deal. Here's Senator Cory Booker, you know, on Meet the Press, and I saw him earlier. You know, there was an interview when he was on Black News Channel. Senator Cory Booker, I need you to, and I already sent him a DM saying I need you to have your staff return some phone calls, because I've been trying to call you because you changed your cell phone number, and maybe I should call the girlfriend, Rosario Dawson, to get a message to him, like, yo, can you call a brother? No, because like bottom line is here, like, we were out there. We were dealing with it. So this is what he told Chuck Todd, and I appreciate them going to all these mainstream folks, but come talk to Black people where people actually watch the show. Listen to this.
Want to let you go without asking about your take on why police reform didn't come to fruition. Here's what Tim Scott said. He said Democrats said no because they could not let go of their push to defund our law enforcement. Is that correct?
No. Again, why are we descending into partisan name-calling or partisan corners? These are two guys that sat down, that worked very hard over 9 months, got the FOP to endorse a compromise bill.
Stop right there. See, all right. Scott's wearing your ass out, controlling the narrative. See, let me go. See, let me walk the audience through, because Lauren mentioned it. I need y'all to understand what's really going on here. Senator Tim Scott, whole deal is, how can we control the narrative?
Right.
Boom, he throws it out. Defund. We defund it out. Senator Cory Booker, why do we have to sit here and use names? Bruh! Recognize what they're doing. Let me go back.
I never imagined we would get FOP leadership to come on board. The International Association of Chiefs of Police, who said, yes, our profession's in trouble. Right. The families were with what we were proposing. It didn't work.
Why do you think Senator Scott's using this language, though? Because you've been very diplomatic. He's not being as diplomatic. Why?
You know, I love him. I send him grace all the time. He is a friend of mine. The reality is I've gotten big things done in this town, in this space, with Lindsey Graham and Chuck Grassley and Donald Trump. We got big things done to cut.
Do you think McConnell didn't want him to cut this deal? Do you think there were others above him that was basically like, do the best you can, but?
I promised the families we're going to get something done. I'm still at work. I'm not throwing accusations at either side. I do think this town has got to learn, all of us, that to try to play the singularly blame game. Right. I accept responsibility. We didn't get it done. I haven't stopped working. We need to lift the frequency of this town, especially on issues like this that all of America knows. Biggest demonstrations in this country's history for change. They want change from the federal level.
It's quite notable, though, that you're not going politics here. Senator Scott is. Just saying.
Again, I've learned a lot over the last 8 years, and that's not the way to get things done in the long run. And the families deserve. We're going to still see videotapes of unarmed African Americans being killed. We've had tragedies in this country we've all witnessed. We've got to start getting things done. And the wonderful thing about it is police leaders understand it as well. We've got to get back to the table eventually and get big things done.
Wow.
He's
Let me tell y'all. Let me tell y'all something. Let me tell y'all something. You ain't my friend if on the other side of the room you telling everybody he ain't shit. But then when you come with me, hey buddy, no. Senator Tim Scott dragged Senator Cory Booker's ass. And this type, if y'all want a case study on how Democrats keep getting their asses handed to them, I just showed you.
Exactly.
This is why.
You're absolutely right.
What would tell you that he's wrong is Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell doesn't come to the table and talk about anything when he's in the majority. He does his thing. And until the Democratic Party understands that and realizes that you have to roll these people, they're not negotiating with you. They're playing PR games on Fox News. And they never figure, I don't know what it is about the Democratic Party. They never figure this out. And they learn this lesson of getting their ass kicked over and over and over again. The only one that really seems to understand what the heck is going on really is Pelosi. I mean, she just does her thing. She didn't care about what they're thinking and what they're saying.
See, Omakongo, look, here's the deal. I don't know, Omakongo. I'm hopeful that ABC News will call me back to do This Week after I destroyed Chris Christie.
It's a good show.
It was the first time I was on in 20 months. It may be another 20 months. But here's my whole deal. I'm not going to sit here. There's a reason Fox News don't call me.
Yep.
There's a reason Bill Maher called me one time, October 2014, and he ain't going to pick that phone up again. Because, see, and I remember when when I was at CNN, I remember one of the executives called my agent and was like, well, when we have these debates, but he takes them so, it's just a debate. I'm like, no. I'm here to put your ass in a rhetorical body bag. I'm here to bury your ass. I am not here to be cute, so we can play patty cake. No, no, Ro ain't here for patty cake. Because the issue here, this is about the lives of people.
Right, life and death.
And you gotta understand the other side, they ain't playing by no rules. They ain't playing nice. Scott just said you walk away from the table twice. And your response is, well, I don't know why they're using those phrases. I don't like calling names. He's my friend. I'm going to extend him grace. I ain't extending. Let me tell you something. I'm just going before I go to. Let me go biblical here, Senator Cory Booker. When you say, I'm going to extend him grace, the great German theologian Dietrich Bonhoeffer coined a phrase called cheap grace. And cheap, and just so everybody need to understand, the German theologian Dietrich Bonhoeffer studied at Abyssinian Baptist Church in Harlem. Bonhoeffer traveled to the United States and saw faith in action, saw social justice and the church combined. Bonhoeffer took what he discovered and studied at Abyssinian Baptist Church and took it back to Germany, began to apply liberation theology in Germany, which is why he was part of the resistance against Hitler, even reached the point of participating in a plot to assassinate Hitler, and determined that killing an evil man like Hitler was justified in the eyes of God because of the evil that he personified, but I digress. He came up with the notion of cheap grace because cheap grace, as Bonhoeffer defined it, Omakongo, was when somebody commits sin and they go, God forgive me, I'm gonna be a hoe again tomorrow, but forgive me tonight. And then when they hold tomorrow night, then they come, God forgive me. He said, no. He said, we want to keep extending cheap grace. He said, people want, he called that cheap, Senator Cory Booker, that's cheap grace. Because the man has rejected your grace. Said you walked away from the table. Said you want to defund the police. He don't care. He ain't calling you friend. He is treating you like a foe. And when somebody shows you that they are a foe, you do not hug and kiss and be nice. No, you got to treat them like KG did when he played against somebody. He said, we ain't friends, because when the game starts, we on opposite sides, and I'm trying to win, and I'm going to do whatever necessary to take you out. That's how Republicans play the game in this city.
Period, bottom line. Period, bottom line. And not only did Senator Tim Scott say everything that you just mentioned, then he went further to call them all elitists, to talk about they forgot what it's like to live amongst the people. And Senator Booker is always talking about, I still live in the city. I still live amongst the people, so on and so he took that as well. And these guys, one of the things that we didn't mention is why Senator Scott is doing this and why McConnell and all of them doing that. They're running the clock as well. They are working to get as close to the midterms as possible, so they're going to delay all of this. And as Lauren said, the Democrats keep falling for this. For some reason, I don't know why this time I thought it was going to be different. Maybe, coming off of Trump and everything that he did, that they were going to be like, we're not falling for the BS anymore. But they're going for it again. You're sitting here talking about, that's my friend, I love him, and so on. So what? I love getting home safe at night. I love, when a cop runs up to me, I love knowing that they're trained and they're not going to try to just shoot me up just because my lights are off or something like that. This is like you said, this is life or death for us. And that's why when you go into these studios, you don't play with them. And that's why these senators and Congress folks can't be playing with these guys right now, because they don't care about our lives. And Senator Booker, respect what you're doing. Representative Bass, loving all of the work that you're doing. But you're right, these senators, we gotta play hardball, man, because it is literally for us a matter of life or death. Forget all of this friendship stuff.
Hold on. Before I go to Julian, again, I'm just gonna give y'all a quick, literally, we gonna close out in 3 minutes. But I just want, this is a 38-second clip. Now, y'all know I don't never like showing anything from CNN. But I'm gonna show y'all how not to respond to Republican attacks. Watch this.
The bill that you were pushing was defunding the police.
Again, it's unfortunate. You remember on this saga, we got the head of the FOP.
Stop right there. Okay, let me go back. Here's the question.
The bill that you were pushing was defunding the police.
Boom. Come back. This is your response. Jake, that's a lie. And it's an offensive lie, as Senator Tim Scott knows it.
Period.
He knows that's not the case, and I wish he would stop telling that lie in order to score points with his Republican counterparts. Listen.
Roland?
No, hold on. Listen.
Again, it's unfortunate. You remember on this saga, we got the head of the FOP, the director of FOP, IACP, these are some of the biggest unions and law enforcement agencies, to go with us on a lot of common sense reforms. And those folks don't want to defund the police. This is a bill that would have had millions of dollars for police to.
Okay, hold on.
So,
fewer dollars though?
Millions of dollars more.
Additional
dollars, because we want to help officers with mental health issues.
Stop. Okay, all right. So, this is how you say it. Jake, I met with the Fraternal Order Police. They agreed to this. I met with the International Police Association. They agreed to this. The very people, Jake, who are wearing the badge, who are patrolling the streets, they agreed to this, and this. Senator Tim Scott, who does not wear the badge, refused to actually do this. You also don't go on television with that mansy-pansy, weak-ass millions of dollars. No! Give a number. Say 75 million, 125 million, 200 million. That's what you do. Learn to fight when you are in a war.
Right.
Instead, oh, we'll be millions of dollars. Jay goes, hire a lawyer. No, I mean millions. No, give me number. Julianne, go ahead.
You know, I mean, you're absolutely right. These Negroes run around acting like they're scared. They have the power in the Congress, in the Senate with 50 votes. They have the presidency. They have the White House. Why do these people not just do their damn work? Just do your work. I'm so disappointed in Cory Booker that I cannot even articulate it. But he'd been Mr. Bojangles much of his life. He was anointed by the Clintons and others as this, you know, Harvard, Yale, wherever he went, black man who's so articulate and he was still of the people. Well, no, he's not of the people. And Tim Scott is right about him from that perspective. Because if he was of the people, he would not be mouthing this bullcrap. He just wouldn't be doing it. And so what we need to do about those like Scott and those like Booker is vote them out, both of them. Lauren is up there cracking up. She's cracking me up by watching her crack. And because this shit is funny, excuse my language, but this shit is funny. It's funny when you have all the power, but you refuse to exercise it. And what it does is to the detriment of our people. And the challenge then, though, is that these people come running back around us every 2 years, 4 years for elections, talking about vote for me because I'll set you free. No, you really won't. No, you really didn't.
Folks, look, all I'm trying to say is this here. This is too serious to continue to play these games. The Republican Party, listen, I need everybody listen to me, and all y'all people who sending me dumbass tweets like some woman talking about you ain't right for supporting Biden. Fool, it was Trump or Biden.
Come on.
That's who the hell it was. Y'all can sit here and run around y'all want to. Here's what I know, and y'all need to listen to me clearly on. The Republican Party wants to take over the House and the Senate, and they want to win back the White House in 2024. They will not support any civil rights investigation in the Department of Justice. They will not support any police consent decrees in the Department of Justice. One of the first acts of Jeff Sessions under Donald Trump was to remove the money that they were used to investigate white domestic terrorism and moved it over to target Muslims, when the greatest threat, according to the FBI director, was white domestic terrorism. And y'all can sit here, and let me tell you, and I ain't never said anybody, Biden damn sure ain't perfect. But if you tell me I got a choice between busting his ass and dealing with crazy-ass Trump and his white nationalists, ain't even a discussion as far as I'm concerned. But what we are not going to do is sit here and play games with these folks who want to play nice. So I want to know where all the white people out on the streets after George Floyd was killed. Who y'all calling on Capitol Hill? Are y'all flooding the offices of Senator Tim Scott? Everybody who was protesting in LA, and Portland, and Milwaukee, and Charlotte, and New York City, and Houston, and St. Louis, every major city, where y'all at? All y'all corporations, all y'all corporations, all y'all corporations, all y'all corporations who posted your black squares, where y'all at?
Come on.
Where y'all at? I want to know why y'all silent.
Yep.
I'm talking to y'all right here. Come on. Where y'all at? Where are you? Why are y'all not jumping all over Booker and Scott and saying, get back to the table and negotiate? Because for many of you, it was performative. For many of you, it was following the leader. Oh, everybody's talking about it. Yo, send out a George Floyd tweet. Post a black box. Say Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter after the black man was killed, and it matters after the bill was killed. what y'all gonna do? Julianne Lauren, Makongo, I certainly appreciate it. Thank you so very much for joining us on today's show. Folks, if y'all want to support what we do here, Roland Martin Unfiltered, please download the Black Star app. You can watch what we do. We bring it straight, no chaser, unlike anybody else. iPhone, Android TV, Roku, Fire Stick TV, Xbox Smart TV. You can also support us with our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar you go to support this show, Cash App, $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Then, of course, we also have Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Yes, I've already told my bookers we're going to be calling the Senator Tim Scott office, Senator Kerr Booker's office every single day. In fact, they're going to call them twice a day. They're going to call them at 10 a.m. They're going to call them at 2 p.m. every single day. And what's going to happen is I'm going to tell you every single day how long they're waiting. And speaking of Nancy Pelosi, I ain't forgot about you as well. Yeah, you should be doing black media as well, black-owned media as well. Folks, I'll see you tomorrow right here in Roland Martin Unfiltered. Holla!